To Brandon Woodworkers Club. Ready to build something awesome together?
This guy. This, in its basic form, is $1,359 plus sales tax.
That's better than double the price it was when it first came out.
It's because they can. No one else builds a machine like this. And then the sustainer, with all the dominoes in it, is another $300 and some. So we've got a full assortment. And for those that don't know, my brother sold this to the club for $700 for this and the sustainer with all the dominoes. So it was a fair deal. He's aging out of the hobby and he's sharing some of his tools with us. So why use a domino? How many people in here have them? So maybe 15% of the crowd has them. If you're familiar with a biscuit joiner helps hold wood in alignment, but it's not very structurally strong. They're pretty small. They serve a great purpose. This is one of the best tools around for joining wood in multiple orientations, where there's just two pieces side to side. Like this one, and the chunk over here. So they're just joining them side to side, joining them vertically, doing corner joints. I think I sent a video out that I found on YouTube where people were doing shelving, which is a fantastically quick way of building a bookcase or building dividers. And it's precise, and it's brutally strong. It's a biscuit joiner on steroids is what it is. So same terms as far as borrowing it. Remember in good standing, dues paid, and you've signed the waiver. So let's talk about how it works for those that don't understand it. We're going to take it apart a little bit. There's a little wrench included in the kit. Pop this off.
Tom, can you put it right here so everybody can see?
Okay, I can do that. You don't want me standing in front of it and just doing it that way? I'm new to this, so.
Not again.
So you can think of it as a precision drill that just oscillates back and forth. So, I'm sorry, doggy, did I bother you?
No, you're fine.
So it has controlled width, and then it's got 4 or 5 different sizes of the bits, depending upon how much structure you need and how deep you want to go and how thick your wood is. So the sample piece I brought in is pretty thin, 3/4 of an inch, so it's got these tiny ones. But so you've got a precision cutting head. It's almost like a router bit, but it goes side to side in 3 different widths. And it's got a unlabeled switch right here, so what do they say, RTFM, read the manual? So just like this well-labeled switch that says don't even think about operating this switch unless the machine is running, it should say that on this switch, but it doesn't. It's in the manual. But so if we put it in this position, it narrows to this. That makes it a little bit wider, and that makes it even wider. Now that is, the purpose of that is to be able to have I did one side at the narrowest and one side at the widest. So if you're going to use it, you line up your boards, you mark it where you want the machine to cut the domino in, and then you operate it. And this gives you the benefits of a slip joint like that. So if you want to line up the end precisely, you can do that. So it's a pretty amazing machine if you want to pass that around and see how close it gets to getting them lined up. To change the cutter, we do what we always do. Unplug the machine, and there's a stop, like on your router. You just find it there, and you put your wrench on, and it's not a goofy thread. It just unthread it, and put the other one on and tighten it back up. So it's pretty simple. The machine has, it confuses a lot of people because they don't do a good job of labeling it, and everything is in metric. So just deal with that. So this switch right here controls the depth of how far it goes into the wood. So you can move this, and this is in millimeters. So that's 28, 25, 20, 15, and 12. And what your dominoes, you know, here's the larger one. And this is a 10 millimeter by 50. I got that right. So you want it to go in halfway. So we would set this at 25, half of 50, and that gets the depth. If that makes sense. You can see that. So that's your depth adjustment, or the depth of the domino cut. And then you have the plate adjustment here. And this is, of course, adjustable up and down for different. Right now, you can see where it comes out, and I can change that, raise it up, and there's a stop here on the side where we can lower it down, and it's also in millimeters, so that's set at 20. So that would be half the thickness of a 40 millimeter thick piece of wood. Yeah.
Can you cut your own dominoes?
You can, I suppose, but it'd be a lot of work. They're not that expensive. And there's aftermarket ones that compete with Festool, so you don't have to buy the name brand. But they're an odd shape, and they've got grooves on the side to let the glue escape, so it doesn't trap at the bottom and control the depth. So these are pretty good value, really, for what you're getting. At least my experience has been that way. And there's a bunch in this box, so unless you're building a ship, you're going to go through a lot of them. So the other cool thing about this is we can do, same thing on a biscuit cutter, we can do a 45 degree. So we can go in and go into a bevel. And I've made a couple of live edge waterfall tables of a nice, made a couple of bedside tables using live edge, nice wood that's that thick, and matched up the grain and did a bevel cut on it. And this is my go-to to join it together, and it holds them perfect. You can't, people look at it and say, wow, you're really good. No, I just got a good tool, that's all it is. So there's other accessories on this. One thing to keep in mind, this little lip right here, I don't know if you can see that. I'll bring it right up here. This lip right here is exactly the midpoint of the cutter. So you can just kind of see that edge, and if you look at it, yep, that's halfway, right through the middle of the cutter head.
Always use the test block to try it on.
Good advice. Same thing with any tool that you're getting acquainted with and learning about. Practice on some scrap wood. Always practice. You'll make a mistake and ruin a very nice, expensive piece of wood if you don't. Now, when you're using this, I'll just demonstrate, pretend this, and this is right from Festool itself. They say, avoid the temptation to hold the machine up here. They recommend holding it back here by the cord. And then you just simply push it in all the way, gently, slowly. Don't force it in really hard. You know, you're operating a cutter head into a piece of wood. So just the more precise and controlled, and this is how you line it up with the gauge right here. And they make accessories where you can evenly space if you're doing a repetitive joining on a tabletop or whatever, but that's not necessary. So you can set it up and do, where'd my wood go? No, being passed around. If you're just doing, you want to do a horizontal piece on a vertical piece, you can go in this way, but build a shelf. Clamp on a shelf to support it, and then use that reference as a gauge, and that'll help you do it. That video I sent out a couple of months ago, it was great. The guy built an entire bookcase using dominoes to put it together, and it was pretty impressive.
When you're doing your depth of plunge, do you go over what the length of the domino is?
I have by accident, but you don't need to.
Really?
The domino is built so that it will allow the glue to squeeze out, so you're not going to trap any there, and so it won't push in all the way. And I think they're made just a little bit shorter than the actual depth, or that it overcuts just a little bit. I've never had a problem doing that.
I do a lot of dowel joints and I overcut them all the time.
Do you
Because I've shoved them together before and they don't go.
you use a domino a lot?
No.
Oh,
Never have.
okay.
So, there you go.
Check it out from the club and play with it. That's another thing, folks, if you don't have an application, but you'd like to get some experience working with it, to see if it might work out for you, borrow it from the club. And
You use dowels, they're scored also.
Right.
Yeah.
Tom,
yeah,
if you borrow the domino, are you borrowing dominoes also?
yes.
Are we expected to replace them, or
Well-
how do you want to work that?
When it becomes an issue, they're not terribly expensive,
So it's $300 some for the accessory kit.
but it's a lot of dominoes in here, a lot.
And they'll get used.
So, and you don't have to buy the whole kit to they sell them by the sizes. And again, they're available with aftermarket manufacturers now. So you can buy replacement ones that don't have the F brand on them, but still function pretty well. So at this point, I don't see a problem with the club replenishing them. The problem that, let's face it, folks, we want these tools to be well taken care of. We want you to, keep them safe, keep people from stealing them from the back seat of your car if you leave your car unlocked. But just be careful and just, follow the instructions. We're going to give you some help when you check it out, because we want to make sure you have a success, and we want to make sure everyone understands the nature of the beast. So, those that have a domino in here, any suggestions, any ideas?
With regards to what? I'm sorry.
But if you have a domino, any tips, any techniques?
Something I found that helps me is if you're trying to line your wood up, put some painter's tape down and use a straight line. Because you'd be surprised that a fat pencil, you can get off, 1/16 of an inch. And if you're putting multiple dominoes in, you may find that you may have to shave the domino down to make the holes line up, at least laterally. And it has the ability to tilt, so you can do dominoes at an angle. But be careful if you over push it, because it's 90 degrees, you'll actually add some tilt to it unintentionally. You go to put it together and it doesn't line up that square. So again, you may have to physically adjust the domino to get the board to line up. But if you follow it, you don't push the material, it'll cut its way in, pull it out. And I highly recommend a vacuum, an empty Festool with something, because it makes a mess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This we're going to get a good old Festool. They make something proprietary for them, but there's an adapter that will go on this, and your shop vac will be just fine on this. But it will, if you're doing like 3 or 4 and that's it, you can blow it out with compressed air. But if you're doing repetitive ones, you want a vacuum.
Always plunge twice, once, and then do the second plunge to clean the hole out.
Good idea.
And then that way it, makes sure that you get all the revolutions and you get a smooth cut.
And you also need to make sure none of the sawdust is in
And
the
then
cut.
take an air hose and then I blow out all the holes before I glue it together.
And like Stacy said, when you're cutting it in, if you don't have it supported very well, see what's happening here? You're going to cut at an angle. So you want to make sure you're down and you're holding it carefully, and then you'll go in perpendicular the way you want it to go. But if you're not paying attention, like anything, it's going to be bad news.
There are several folks that make an adapter that goes on the side where it's metric in height to imperial.
Okay. Good American
Several
patriots,
folks on
those people are.
the Facebook Festool Domino group,
Okay.
and there's several folks on there that sell the little imperial pieces for like $20.
Yeah, I had to absorb my pride and buy a metric one of these. It's terrible. So, any other comments?
When I do my tables, gluing up the dining tables, put them 2-inch from each end, and then every 8 inches is the way I do my table tops.
Okay.
And I
This-
use number 8 with the one that's about 4-inch long, so there's 2-inch on each side.
Now, do you do all your work with the 500, or do you have a
I've
700?
got the 700.
For those of you who don't know, they make two sizes. This is what they call the 500, which goes up to this thickness of domino.
Which is an 8,
Yeah.
and that's what I have on my 700.
But they make a more bigger one that uses dominoes that are pretty doggone big. And we didn't buy you that one. We bought you the cheaper one. So honestly, for what Jeff does with lots of slab work, the 700 is necessary because it provides a lot of structural strength on really heavy pieces of wood. But for furniture work, for cabinet work, for making up cutting boards, charcuterie boards, this will do 90% of what you, or more than 90% of what you need to do. Stacy?
So for some of y'all that may not have a big project, one thing I've done to show people is I think it has a 3mm bit in it. And if you just want to do a little picture frame, you know how miter joints suck as far as glue? You can line this up and throw it in there and throw a short little stubby in there. And that picture frame is more solid than what you need at the end of the day. When I build cabinets out, I'll lay out the dominoes. And I can slap together a cabinet with dominoes and dados. It's hardly nothing. It's structurally twice as strong as pretty much anything else you can do. You just got to watch your depth of cut, right? So if you're going T-joint, you can cut deeper to one side, but you'll blow through the other side, but you have to adjust it on the tool. But just plan out your cuts like everything else.
We're at break time. I'm going to give myself the hook and
Thanks for watching the Brandon Woodworkers Club. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content. Click next for another woodworking project.